and somebody is bombing your houses, right? And we easily accepted the explanation given by the US government. This is all collateral damage. And if you remember, Colin Powell went before the United Nations and actually spoke lies that they had found weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, when later it was proved to be utter lies. And millions of lives have been lost in these kind of, sensational, staged spectacles. So what it does, even to the lay person, is we regularly get fed through the electronic media and of course through the WhatsApp, the exercise of powers in a violent manner, in an unconstitutional manner, and it's become routine. So if you see in films that somebody is getting tortured in police custody, it's no longer shocking us. As a viewer sitting in the audience and watching the film, I'm not saying, oh, this violates Section 25 Evidence Act, this violates CRPC, this violates, no. For me, it's perfectly all right. Police, like Walter Devaram comes and twirls his moustache, takes his lathi and beats someone. I think, oh, he's a very strong policeman. KPS Gill is a big hero. KPS Gill did not believe in the rule of law. I'm confidently stating that on this stage because we don't seem to realize these things. As a public, we consume all this very easily. So violence is getting routinized and we're not questioning these things. If it happens to us, we will definitely question it. If it happens to somebody else, let it happen. So this indifference that we show as a public is another reason why these things happen with utter impunity. What all of this has done is to condone police excesses, breed a culture of impunity. There is a general pattern in these cases that have been observed by researchers world over. Tunnel vision. For instance, I am already clear into the 5th day of my investigation that these are the suspects. In the 6th, 7th day, as an investigator, I am coming across evidence that shows to the contrary. But I am impatient. I have to close this case. I have to tell the public that I have solved it. Right? So ignore all those other elements that are coming to disprove my initial conclusion. So I persist with it, and this actually researchers call what is called a tunnel vision. That you are already predetermined that you have to go in this way. Hyderabad police fake encounters. 4 people were picked up for following the rape and murder of a young lady near a toll plaza. And presumably they were taking the police to the place where they hidden some clothes of hers. The next thing we knew is all 4 had been killed. When asked how were they killed, they said no, 2 of them snatched our rifles and they were trying to shoot us, so we had in self-defense to shoot them. Fortunately, and this is only part of the story, fortunately, women's groups petitioned the Andhra Pradesh High Court and said there's something utterly fishy in this, so please have it investigated. Similar petitions were filed at the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court set up a committee headed by Justice Sirpurkar. After 2 years of sittings through the COVID period, that 3-member committee has given a report which is utterly damning of the police. 3 of those 4 persons were actually minors, something that is not being discussed in the media. And the one person who was an adult and was killed, they had nothing to show that committee that they ever snatched any rifle, tried to shoot the policeman, nothing of that sort. So today, it's been established as a result of an inquiry that these were fake encounters. And that committee has recommended they should all be booked for murder. But we still don't know what is happening in those cases. Maybe an FIR has been registered, but we'll have to watch that space to see what actually the court does. So this impunity is growing. I must draw a distinction between what I call as impunity and immunity. Immunity is when you apply for sanction and sanction is refused, you are unable to prosecute a police officer. So section 197 of the CRPC grants the police officer immunity from prosecution. Impunity, I don't register a case at all. I simply turn a blind eye. During the militant years of Punjab, over 5,000 people were cremated and their bodies thrown into the 5 rivers, Jhelum, Ravi, Satluj and so on. These were never investigated. It had to wait orders of the Supreme Court and then orders of the NHRC for some of the families of some of them to be compensated, but no records kept. If you went to the cremation grounds, no records kept. So we've had, for instance, unmarked graves in Kashmir now. No investigations done. In the Northeast, we have a judgment, reported judgment of the Supreme Court. Justice Madan Lokur is the author. Which acknowledges that there were 1,528 people in just Manipur state who were encountered or disappeared. and a committee was set up headed by Justice Santosh Hegde, and only 10 cases were referred to that committee, and they found in all cases what the complainants were saying was right, and there was FIRs had to be registered. But immediately you had a reaction from the armed forces, families of the officers of the armed forces saying, if you allow this, the morale of the armed forces will go down. We are all acting under command, under orders. So we really have a situation where many in the police force and the armed forces are enjoying both immunity as well as impunity. I think I'll skip through a lot of it because we'll run out of time. I'll just come to the last part of my lecture. Before you begin to think that it is all futile and nothing can be done, I need to remind you that just as miscarriage of justice is as old as civilization. So in Tamil Nadu, you should know that Kannagi's case was the first recorded case of miscarriage of justice. And the crucifixion of Jesus Christ is another recorded case of injustice. Just as miscarriage of justice is as old as civilization itself, so also is the fight against it. Okay, we go back to the 3 cases I talked about. As a result of the Guildford 4 acquittals, the Maguire 7 acquittals and the Birmingham 6 acquittals, a Royal Commission on Criminal Justice called the Runciman Commission was announced in 1991 by the then Home Secretary in the United Kingdom. This commission went into several aspects, and among the several recommendations it made, one was setting up of what is called the Criminal Cases Review Commission. This commission actually can be petitioned by people who think they've been wrongly convicted, and if they make out a prima facie case before the commission then refers those cases back to the courts for reopening of the trial, and also provides for compensation, rehabilitation and all of that. Like look at the second instance of Zubaydah, Guantanamo Bay. Zubaydah took his case to the European Commission of Human Rights, he took his case to the US Supreme Court, he took his case to the UK Supreme Court, and it's been an unrelenting fight for him. But he needs closure. He needs to prove to the world at large and to his own communities that he was an innocent person. He was taken and kept in detention for over 20 years on the presumption of guilt when actually he was completely innocent. So this should inspire you that that brooding sense of injustice that a person carries will compel that person to approach courts for justice, and you as lawyers must be available to help that person in that quest for justice. Even in India, we have constant petitioning of the Supreme Court and the High Courts for justice. For instance, when Benix and Jairaj were murdered in police custody here, courts were petitioned. The Northeast, I told you how the Supreme Court is petitioned. And Nambi Narayanan's case, he went back to the court to seek compensation, he got 50 lakhs as compensation. These may be episodic, these may be far and few in between, but it tells you that there is an answer to this. How often you do it, how well you do it is up to you. We do have a number of Godi media channels, but we also have some responsible news networks. I can think of Junior Vigadan here in Tamil Nadu. Web-based news outlets, they don't simply take the press releases of the police. You know, you will find a headline saying, terrorist admits to the crime. So the person who's been arrested is already labeled as a terrorist. Whatever he tells the police in custody is already taken to be the gospel truth. And then from that point, there'll be extensive discussion in the electronic media by panelists saying that this person is a murderer, that person is a terrorist. So you'll say, if some court grants this man bail, it will say, the headline will say, terrorist walks free. Nothing could be more misleading. So there's a tremendous pressure on the judiciary as well. I must share with you one instance when I was a very young lawyer. From the Legal Services Committee of the Supreme Court, I got this case to handle. This was a person on death row, his name was Muthukutti Chandran. So he was accused and found guilty of the crime of committing a series of murders in the Kasargod area in Kerala. One of the lawyers in Kerala, and he's still around, he met me in Kochi when I gave a talk there. He was traveling on a first-class compartment from Thiruvananthapuram to Kochi, and in the same compartment in the coupe was the judge who decided Muthukutti Chandran's case. And the manner of conversation the judge told the lawyer, you know, I was under tremendous pressure by the local population, and I could not have acquitted the person, although the evidence didn't square up. So this lawyer felt very strongly about this. He says, if a judge can admit to this, that the evidence didn't square up, how can you put somebody on the gallows? So he wrote to the lawyer wrote to the Supreme Court a letter which came to me to argue in the court. And of course, the court was not willing, despite an affidavit being filed by the lawyer, to reopen the case. But what this also told me very young, in my very young days as a lawyer, that the courts, particularly the local courts, are under tremendous pressure, societal pressure, to uphold the convictions of persons whom the media has already portrayed as accused and culprits. We now have Association of Persons of Association of Parents of Disappeared Persons, APDP, in Kashmir. These are young women and middle-aged women and even grandmothers who've all come together to form this association, and they keep petitioning for justice, because for them there is no closure. Some young person in their families has been picked up and has not come back to the families. They don't even know what has happened to the person. Then we have instances like Jai Bhim. You have a lawyer like Chandru who's able to fight against all odds. You have Ram Narayan Kumar. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's documented all the instances of those Punjab mass cremations. Meticulous documentation. That book is called Reduced to Ashes: The Insurgency and Human Rights in Punjab. Then you have films. I don't know, maybe you've heard of Marches by Gulzar, where he captures what happened in the militant years in Punjab. Have you seen Haider, Vishal Bharadwaj's film? It captures somewhat what happened in Kashmir. So films are another way of educating yourself about what is actually happening, but you should see the right kind of films. You should not see Ab Tak Chappan and think that is a great way to be as a police officer. Then you have documentation by what's called the Innocence India Network. Wahid Sheikh, one of the persons acquitted in the Bombay blast cases, has written this book called Beguna Kaidi. It's also available in English. And Muhammad Amir Khan has written a book called Framed as a Terrorist. This man was booked in 19 cases of different bomb blasts, and it took him again 14 years to prove his innocence to come out. So these are all available to you, around you, and what you pick up, how you go forward is entirely up to you, but the fight must go on. You cannot give up this fight because there are too many people waiting for justice. Then we have the Law Commission's 277th report on compensation for those maliciously prosecuted. I must tell you, these three new laws address none of these issues. You have a section 358 in the CRPC which talks of compensation for wrongful arrest. It gives you 1,000 rupees as compensation. That provision remains as such in the new law. You have a section 211 for framing a false case. Again, very little or no compensation under an old law. New law makes no difference to it. The new law does not talk of encounters. It does not talk of disappearances. It does not talk of mass crimes. It does not talk of crimes against humanity. So the new laws don't address the real issues where human rights violations are taking place with impunity in our country. And it's not just about the IPC, but a string of special and local laws. If you look at the NCRB reports, you will find a classification of special and local laws. Under that classification is all these extraordinary laws I'm talking of, UAPA, PMLA and whatnot. So this is how we have to forge forward. So I have this request of the young lawyers voice. Question everything, particularly unverified association facts and be substituted for So DK Basu continues the Supreme Court of India for monitoring, for its implementation. And Dr. Abhishek Shingi, the earlier speaker in this lecture series, is the amicus curiae. So, in order to find out whether states are complying with DK Basu, a questionnaire was sent everywhere, and this is shared with all of us by Professor Gaur Gopal. He said the questionnaire went to one of the police stations, where the question was, do you follow DK Basu? The answer was, no, he is not in our history sheeters list, we don't. Another funny episode. There is a competition for the best police team in the world. So the competition is very simple. You have to enter a forest and catch hold of a fox. So the French team goes in, and within 3 minutes the fox has been caught. How? They find a perfume. You spray the perfume, it attracts the fox comes out. The American team is sent next, and they have perfected the mating call. So they imitate that mating call, the fox comes running out. Then the Indian team goes in, and it's already late in the afternoon, 4:30, 5, no sign of the Indian team. 6:30, again no sign. Then a search party is sent to find the Indian team. The search party goes to the middle of the forest and finds a small clearing between 2 trees. A bear has been strung up, and these chaps are beating it, saying, "Kabul kar tu nobody hai." Basically saying, admit that you are a fox. I want you to have role models to emulate, because you will find in your life as a criminal lawyer, people asking you always, how can you defend criminals like this, right? As a lawyer, you should know, after hearing this kind of examples, that whatever is told to you that this person is a criminal, this person is a terrorist, don't take it for granted. Question it. Ask to be satisfied. And as a lawyer, you're standing up for whatever that person has to present before a court. You have, he or she has a right to silence. You respect that constitutional guarantee. She has a right against self-incrimination. You respect that. He or she has the right to say, my statement made to the police officer should not be acted upon. Say that. Don't twist facts, don't twist evidence, but please place the case that the person has before the court. That is your fundamental duty as a professional. Just like a doctor will not refuse to operate on a terrorist who needs a heart surgery or a kidney transplant, you as a lawyer should not make these kind of choices. Leave it to the courts. The courts will decide whether the person is guilty or not. You do your fundamental professional duty of defending the person to the best of your ability. People in the audience must be wondering, okay, this person goes on talking about the accused, human rights of the accused, what about victims, right? In the media, you'll always find when somebody says this person who was arrested has been treated unfairly, another panelist will say, what about the victim? And they will position rights of victims versus rights of accused. That's a wrong equation. One doesn't score out the other. It is not a zero-sum game. You have rights of the accused, you have rights of the victims. You can respect both. No victim will feel satisfied if a wrong person is put in jail. And remember what Father Naimullah said during the Nazi regime. If you are indifferent to the way the criminal justice system works, it might entrap you as well. So be vigilant, be alert, and be like my big hero, Kannabiran. So we'll start at the 20th minute. This will take just 4 minutes, but it's so important for every young lawyer to watch this. Kannabiran was a senior lawyer, he is no more. He's been my eternal hero. I get goosebumps every time I hear him. So I'm going to get, I know I'm going to get them now again. But he stood up for very difficult cases and fought them till the last breath of his life. So please hear what he has to say.
Any part of it is similar cases, conspiracy cases. 22 conspiracy cases were framed within a period of, say, from 69 to 74.
74లో సికింద్రాబాద్ కుట్ర కేసు వచ్చింది. ఆ సికింద్రాబాద్ కుట్ర కేసులో విప్లవ రచయితలు 6 ఉన్నారు. చివరికి ఎంతంటే టెలిఫోన్ డైరెక్టరీలో కూడా విప్లవ రచయితల కుట్ర కేసు అని దాని ఫోన్ నెంబర్ ఇవ్వబడుతుంది.
civil liberties movement, that Kanna fought our case for 18 years without a single paisa charging us as fee. Not only that, in our case, there are so many accused who were small farmers or their wives and all that. They used to come to Hyderabad. They were penniless. Kanna used to provide them boarding and lodging, and even to and fro charges. That way, at that time, let me tell you, Kanna had a very prosperous practice. He was legal advisor to Paris and Company from Tamil Nadu and so many other five-star hotels, clubs and all that. His practice suffered a lot because he took up our case. He became known as Naxalite liar. But I would personally feel that the government was interested in prolonging the matter. You know, you harass them completely. So you have the accused who were married then have become fathers. Some accused have become grandfathers. And I was the only one constant feature. And then after the PP's argument in October, the judge asked me, when will you have your arguments, Mr. Kannabiran? Then I told the judge very solemnly, saying, sir, I took up this case when I was 40 years old or 45 years old. And now, sir, I am 55, I think, 45, 15 years, 40 years old. I am 55 now. And my birthday falls on 9th November, that is a Monday. Please have it on that day so that I can commence my arguments. So the next day the accused got flowers, birthday gifts, bouquets and all that. Empty con, not a huge bouquet.
1972 నుండి చూస్తున్నాం మేము చిన్నగున్నప్పటి నుండి ఈ 30 ఏళ్ల సుదీర్ఘమైన జీవితంలో ఎప్పుడెప్పుడు ప్రజల ఉద్యమాలు వచ్చినాయో ఎప్పుడెప్పుడు విప్లవ ఉద్యమాలు వచ్చినాయో అట్లుండవు అదే కాదు ఏ నక్సలైట్ల గురించి చెప్పుతే భయం రా బాబు నక్సలైట్ గురించి మాట్లాడితే భయం అన్న పరిస్థితులలో ఆ నక్సలైట్ ఉద్యమాన్ని గురించి ఆ విప్లవ ఉద్యమాన్ని గురించి కంటిన్యూగా మాట్లాడడం అదే కాకుండా వాళ్ళు చేసే తప్పులు కూడా నిర్భయంగా ఖండిస్తారు అదొకటి దాచుకోడు కోపానికి వచ్చిండనుకో నువ్వు ఇది తప్పు చేస్తున్నావు నువ్వు ఇది తప్పు చేస్తున్నావు మీరంతా పాడైపోతారు రా మీ చెప్తే వినూరి మెల్లగా తీసుకుపోయిన మూమెంట్ అని కూడా గట్టిగా చెప్పగలుగుతాడు తన మనసులో ఉన్నది మనకు కొంచెం ఎమోషనల్ అయిపోయింది అనుకో ఇంకా ఏం మిగలదు అంత చెప్పేసేస్తాడు.
Mr. Kannabiran, these Naxalites who want to overthrow the government, overthrow the constitution and all that, why should say they seek protection under the constitution? Then I told them, sir, when such values come before this court, it is not their values which are on trial, but your values. Your values are in trial. Your constitution is on trial. You write in the constitution saying people who don't believe in the constitution are not entitled to protection. There's an end of it. 1 minute. So long as 1 minute. You say that notwithstanding their views, they are entitled to rights and protection under the constitution. It is your values, your constitution, which is always on trial.
The Indian constitution is
in another place in this film, he tells you how it's not the constitution that gives you the rights. The constitution recognizes the rights you already have. And those rights have to be asserted time and again. You must develop a habit of asserting constitutional rights if you want to preserve this democracy. So I think I've come to the end of the lecture, but my request, we need a strong and vigilant bar as much as we need independent judges at all levels. We talk of independent judiciary only about the High Courts and Supreme Court. What about that magistrate working in those trying conditions, feeling so much pressure just not from society, from the police and from all quarters and from his bosses in the High Court? His ACR should not be spoiled by some High Court judge. All tensions. The person works under those conditions. We need to ensure independence of that judge at that level. We need to be an informed public that will stand up to injustice. It was Eleanor Roosevelt who said, "Where after all do human rights begin? in small places close to home, so close and so small that they cannot be seen on any map of the world. Yet they are the world of the individual person, the neighborhood she lives in, the school or college she attends, the factory, farm or office where she works. Such are the places where every man, woman and child seeks equal justice, equal opportunity, equal dignity without discrimination. Unless these rights have meaning there, they have little meaning anywhere. Without concerted citizen action to uphold them close to home, we shall look in vain for progress in the larger world. The Zubedas, the Amir Khans, the Wahid Sheikhs are shining examples of people who have survived enormous ordeals to tell their stories to all of us, and yet not give up hope in their struggles to seek closure and justice, not just for themselves, but for the silent suffering humanity that is victim of state excesses. Let us strengthen their hands and their hopes and join them in making this world a better place for all of us. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Can I request you for a few more minutes? We are going to close. And I do not know, I have no words at all, Mr. Justice Muralidhar. For your information, I have prepared certain questions for Mr. Justice Muralidhar. I'll just read the questions alone and I'll tell you what happens. I prepared a question anticipating that he is going to defend something of this type. And I prepared a question that, how do you say that when the offender is brought before law, having committed an offence is to be treated as innocent, as the process of proving his guilt is lengthy and cumbersome? He has already answered that. Is that right? He has already answered that. Then I was having a question, what about the victims? Should they suffer till the guilt of the offender is proved? He has already answered that. And I had a question. These are my questions now. He has not given me. Don't worry. It's my questions. Are the preventive detentions to be considered as guilt before the innocent? His first point is that should they be treated as a guilt? Are the laws against the law have-nots and not against haves? He has already answered that. All these are against haves or have-nots. You know where have-nots are inside. If the haves are enjoying innocent until proven guilty, should the poor suffer guilty until proven innocent? He has already answered. And now the house is open to you. I expect many of you, the main legal luminaries are there, and our former prosecutors and the present senior counsel, the judges are here, and the prosecutors are here, and the law students are here. Just questions, any questions that you want to ask, please. Anyway, the first of the questioner, somebody, please come. Yes. Yes, sir.
Sir, my question is, in the case of Mr. Gautam Navlanka in the Supreme Court has given him, accepted his request of house arrest, still pending trial. What is your opinion on granting house arrest at the request of the accused?
I handled the case myself. Rather, somebody else should talk about it. I actually gave an order in that case. So, you read the judgment of the Delhi High Court and now the Supreme Court later. All right. See, I think what you should, Vijay, what you should also consider is not just that one case in isolation. There are, I think, 18 accused in the Bhima Koregaon cases. See what has happened in all those cases. When were they arrested? When was charge sheet filed? Why charges are not framed? Right? It's 6 years since they were arrested. So that is what you should look at, and how difficult it has been for each of them to get bail. Each of them had to come to the Supreme Court to get bail. So that's something that tells you how the law is actually working on the ground. Yes.
May I please, my lords?
Yes.
Lordship may throw some advice to the young lawyers here and the juniors, how to become successful lawyer and good judge like you.
They will make the good judges if they are good lawyers. In order that there is no miscarriage of justice in court, in order that an overruled judgment is not cited, in order that a relevant provision is actually shown to the court and not kept away from the court, you need to be alert, updated, and have a voracious appetite for reading. And reading across disciplines, not just law. You open the newspaper Hindu, straight go to the sports page, ignore the editorial page. Won't work. As a lawyer, you must be able to read, comprehend, write down what you have read, and then speak. So the sequence is read, write, speak. If you speak without writing, disaster. So you find lawyers who draft their own petitions are able to argue better in court, better than senior lawyers who argue others' drafts. So this is and be alive to realities in society. People coming to you are coming in distress. Let them not leave you in greater distress. People coming into the system are coming for relief. Let them not go from the system making their lives worse. These are simple rules that you set for yourself. But imbibe constitutional values at a deep personal level. If you are a lawyer who says, I am an ADMK lawyer, I will not deal with the DMK case, a DMK lawyer, ADMK case, out. You've lost your professional privilege to be a lawyer. If you have compulsions like, I am a vegetarian, I will not deal with cases of non-vegetarians, you cannot be a lawyer. You must believe in secular values. You must believe in constitutional values of the right to equality, non-discrimination, liberty, dignity, and fraternity. Practice these values in the bar. Don't allow the bar to be captured by forces that don't believe in constitutional values. This is my earnest request to you. If you don't practice constitutional values in the bar, you can't fight for them in the court. If you don't practice them in the bar, you cannot expect judges who are from amongst you to uphold those values. So firmly believe in constitutional values, practice them at a personal level on a daily basis. You can't be a lawyer who beats up his wife in court and argues a protection of women against Domestic Violence Act in the court. You need to practice this on a daily basis. So this is my advice.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, my lords.
Good morning, sir. Hi.
Good afternoon, Bo.
Good afternoon. Yes.
Sir, please.
Thank you, Justice Muralidhar. Your lecture could well be a research paper publishable in any of the law journals.
Thank you.
My question is on the attitude of the judiciary. National security and terrorism on the one hand, and serious economic offences on the other, seem to be magic words that halt the judiciary in its tracks. Why do the judges give the executive such a long rope in these two kinds of cases to violate the basic tenets of the rule of law?
See, one is, I think, the tendency to believe that the state must be right. So the questioning, that's why I say as a lawyer you should begin questioning. Don't take everything that's put before you for granted. So you must develop the ability to question, the ability, but for which you should be informed. Right? If you do not have enough information, you cannot put the relevant question. A prosecutor comes before you, he produces sealed cover. He says, sir, I will show it to you in sealed cover. Cannot show it to anybody. So that is, many judges fall for that. They don't say, listen, file an affidavit claiming this privilege. There is a provision in law for that, claiming privilege. But many judges get overawed. They simply take that sealed cover and think, oh, there's something so, serious about it that we should not look into it. So it also comes from having a wide range of practice and fighting establishment. So if you find a majority, I'm not saying all judges are like that, a good lot of judges are picked up from among government leaders, prosecutors. So they are less willing to question state excess or state authority. It happens. I mean, there were Earl Warrens. Earl Warren was thought, he will go with the government of the day. He proved them completely wrong. We've had instances of judges who've been fearlessly independent irrespective of their past. But we are talking of the run-of-the-mill, regular judges who can easily get overawed if the government comes before them and says, this is high security, defense of the nation, all of that. they should develop the ability to question even that. And as a High Court or as a Supreme Court, that is the power you have. After all, the government is accountable to the rule of law, and you as the court are to enforce that accountability. That's the primary role of the court, and I don't see why they should simply accept. Like if you look at the Media One, sir, because you're from the Media One case of Kerala, which went to the Supreme Court, they tried saying the same thing to the Supreme Court. All defense of the country, security of the nation. The Supreme Court saw through that, saw through the materials and said, no, we don't find these as acceptable explanations for why you're denying renewal of license to this media house, and allowed their petition. It's a wonderful judgment, answers the point you're making, but we need more courts like that to take this forward.
Yes, sir, thank you. Sir, what is the main reason for delay of judgments? Because we have a DK Basu 11 guidelines, then too we have a delay of judgments. What is the main reasons of the delay of judgments?
Yeah, several reasons. One, of course, is the overload of cases. See, judgment writing is an art, it's a skill. If I've heard 5 cases today of reserved orders, tomorrow I hear 5 cases of reserved orders. By the end of the week, I have some 30 reserved cases, right? I'm supposed to start writing over the weekend, which is Saturday and Sunday. The first case I reserved. I've already traveled some 6 days away from that case, right? So I have to recall all those arguments. I have to write a proper judgment. If I want to write a perfect judgment, I can't write it in a hurry. Some judges have developed the skill of being able to dictate then and there. It happens with some years in the judiciary, but not all judges are well versed in that. Another factor is what happens actually in court. The role of lawyers is very little spoken of. It's as if the entire delay, the cause is only the judiciary. The number of lawyers seeking adjournments, if you're sitting in court and watching court proceedings, you'll realize that. Adjournment sought by the defense lawyer or the prosecution, one or the other. So you have variety of reasons. Records not being ready, witnesses not being ready. The CBI has a list of 80, 100 witnesses. If it's supposed to produce 3, it doesn't produce even 1. You have to adjourn it. So I'm saying there's such a whole variety of factors that contribute to delays in courts. We've, I think, unfortunately put the entire blame only on the judiciary, and we've not actually seen how many people are contributing to the delay. So I think it's a complex question, but the simple answer is overload of cases. It's like an overloaded vehicle. A 4-seater car la neenga 10 பேர் உட்கார்ந்து வெச்சீங்கன்னா கார் எப்படி நகரும்? நகராது. என்ன டிரைவர் போட்டால் even a shoemaker comes there and drives, he can't drive that car beyond 10 kilometers an hour. So, the judge population ratio also is very low. So, and you'll be surprised to know it's not easy to find from among lawyers judges with the capacity to be a good judge. So that's a different task altogether. You need enormous patience in listening to cases, doing the same things over and again from morning to night. So I can say now confidently after 17 years of being on the bench that it's a very complex question. We've tried to simplify that question and give a simple answer, which is what is leaving us all dissatisfied.
Good afternoon, and thank you for an excellent lecture, Justice Selvam.
Hello.
I am going one step beyond guilty till proved innocent. In fact, I might be roughing a few factors here. But we have situations where trial advocates are telling us that the judge at the completion of the trial informs, yours is a good case, take it up in appeal and convicts. How are we going to meet that situation? I think it's a very dangerous thing. The difficulty is the district judiciary and the subordinate judiciary are running a little scared of being knocked on the head by the administrative judge or by whoever looks up the ACR. So this is an issue, I think.
Correct. Actually, this is calls for a soul-searching introspection. See, when we have our meetings with our district judiciary, we must instill them in the confidence that, just because they grant a bail, they will not be, suspected of having done something wrong. So, in fact, in Orissa, you'll be surprised to know, sir, there was an instruction that every bail order, whether it's anticipatory or bail, granted by any court in the district judiciary, a copy should be sent to the High Court. That had such a chilling effect. So when I took over as Chief Justice, I first withdrew that order. The minute you think you're going to be watched so closely for every order that you pass, you'd cease to function. So you're right, we need to introspect, we need to instill the confidence in the district judiciary that their primary function is to decide bails on merits and not out of fear.
We are grateful, Malad, for your lecture. You are enlightened as well. But that is the right between the accused and the victim, as your Lordship has explained.
Correct.
But after 15 years or 14 years, or even after 20 years, a person who is incarcerating in jail, either the High Court or the Supreme Court, as the case may be, at last is to find that they are innocent. What would be the compensatory mechanism, Malad, unlike this Nambi Narayan's case? None of them are also being compensated for that valuable life they have spent in incarceration for more than 15 years.
Correct.
What would be this government or the judiciary is going to step up or for us rehabilitating the person who has convicted or not convicted and incarceration?
So, like I said, there's a Criminal Cases Review Commission in the UK, and the 277th Law Commission report has suggested a series of measures and compensation, not just monetary compensation. Rehabilitation in terms of removal of disqualification. For instance, I have been acquitted in a murder case. I apply for a job. There's a column says, have you ever been convicted of any offense? I have to say, yes, I was convicted, but in appeal it was reversed. The minute the prospective employer sees that, he says, I want nothing to do with this person. So you suffer disqualifications for admissions to employment, admissions to institutions. So the Law Commission report is very interesting reading. It, of course, refers to literature all around the world, and says that we have to do much more than mere monetary compensation. The thing is, Law Commission reports are not read by anyone. This report was given in 2019, and when we passed these 3 new laws now in 2024, I think nobody in Parliament even bothered that this was an important aspect to be addressed. We have also enormous and enough examples of countries abroad, New Zealand, Canada, Australia, of course England, US, where you have schemes for compensation for persons wrongly convicted. Likewise, victims' compensation. There are enough schemes. Witness protection, for instance. This was a wonderful opportunity to put in the statute witness protection measures. Not done. And we are claiming that we've somehow ushered in a fantastic set of free laws which is going to usher in a new era. No, it doesn't address many of the problems that we've been talking about today. So this requires serious debate. Very serious debate. Thank you. Thank you for the question.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Karthik, a second year law student.
Yes. Can you put up your hand? There you are. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So my question is, has our pursuit for instant justice started downplaying our journey for getting the actual justice? Like you mentioned the Hyderabad rape case, right? In that we had a fake encounter and people started nonchalantly celebrating it. So have we started internalizing this feeling of getting instant justice, but not the actual justice, something which is just satisfying our ego? So is this becoming very prevalent among the minds of people, and has media also spiced up this feeling?
First I'll ask you, when you say we, qualify that we, alright? It's not that all people are celebrating. Some who know how the system works are not celebrating. First, you must decide you want to be part of those people who are not celebrating or part of the people who are celebrating, right? That's point number one. Second is, it's only through more education and being more informed that you can question this. See, this reaction of the public or the mobs to instant justice has always been there from time immemorial. It's nothing new. We are hoping that with better education and better awareness, there will be a refinement of thinking and a more mature way of responding to these situations. But we have to work at it. We have to constantly work at it. We shouldn't be regressing, which is what the media is now doing. I'm talking of the major news channels and television and all of that. Instead of helping us think more rationally, they are asking us to abandon rationality, and that's a disturbing thing. But law students, lawyers can contribute a lot to changing this perception of the society. So you have a big task ahead of you.
Thank you for the magisterial lecture, Lordship. In fact, as an extension to that question, of late you did speak about biases being formed, but there's also the problem of technology today that can actually exacerbate this problem, or is exacerbating this problem,
Correct.
deep fakes and all of these things. And I
Correct.
actually have a disinformation research group and in London,
Right.
where we are looking at it on a day-to-day basis.
Yes.
How does then the court regulate or legislate on this, or you
The
know, how
court
does
doesn't legislate. Let me make it very clear. The court informs itself. See, judges, we do go to judicial academies where there are short-term, courses or lectures given on newer developments in the law, including your electronic evidence, cybercrime. But we need to do it more intensively. So that's one way. We have a Tamil Nadu State Judicial Academy, you have a National Judicial Academy, and you have regional academies. Like in Coimbatore, there is a regional academy of the Tamil Nadu Judicial Academy. So these places are where we hope to expose judges. We call speakers from different disciplines, even discipline of science, to tell us, or computer experts, to tell us how this technology works. And in court, you will find expert evidence. So that's why I'm saying it's all about your own individual level reading and ability to digest all these technical concepts. But it can only happen through greater exposure and greater learning, that you will be able to question even an expert, whether what the expert is saying is right or not. It's a huge challenge. The technology thing is a huge challenge. Yes, please. Yes, madam.
Good afternoon to everyone. I'm Sudhara Malingam. I have been associated and worked with Mr. K.G. Kanabiran a lot. He was our mentor. So I just wanted to share a few things. That is, he is a person who used to talk about how you have to make the magistrates understand that constitution is something with which they work. I think towards that, Rakesh Foundation should actually take it up. The most important thing right now in Andhra Pradesh, a letter by Ravi Chandar has been taken up as a suo motu writ petition, where the people have been brought handcuffed. This is happening routinely even in Tamil Nadu. I think such instances could also be taken up by this foundation, and we also perpetuate the memory of K.G. Kanabiran likewise. I think that's something which I would like to appeal to you. Thank you, Mr. Muralidhar. It was a great pleasure to listen to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, yes. Correct. Actually, we are regressing. When you keep the statute and the human rights documents side by side, even our own constitution, you can see how much we are regressing in the area of lawmaking, in criminal law. So I think we all need to speak up, invoke Kanabiran wherever we can.
Hello, sir. I was privileged to work with Murli sir, and his attitude while working with juniors is very calm. I have a small question, sir. Always young lawyer while defending accused, and which are subject to media trials, where it is already portrayed that that particular accused is difficult. While taking up such cases, it becomes a stress for a lawyer, whether how to present him in a perfect manner, because while taking up the matters, they are already portrayed as criminals. While taking up such matters, how do we manage that stress? How do we not become a judge and only do our advocacy? Because that becomes a difficult task. So, can you enlighten on that?
Look at the examples. Of course, Kanabiran is a big hero for all of us. There are several examples around you of lawyers taking up very difficult cases. You will have one lawyer stand on this side and a whole battery of senior lawyers on this side, right? And this one lawyer is so well prepared, gets the audience of the judge. So, how well you're prepared, how calm you can be. See, this is very important. You're a professional. The important thing to note is, don't use rhetoric, don't get emotional, and don't identify with your client. Of course, you're representing the client, but don't identify with the client. Present your case as professionally, competently as you can. This is only through sheer, years at the bar and watching people around you can develop these skills, and connecting with the judge. So all that is important. You earn the respect of the bar when you stand up like this in a difficult case and argue. It doesn't matter whether you lost the case or not. That you are able to stand up, withstand that pressure, still address the court, place your arguments is what will mark you out as a good lawyer.
Good afternoon, sir. I consider this as my pleasure to be a part of this lecture because I came to know a different concept. And sir, whenever a person is declared as guilt or declared as innocent or gets a bail, he or she has to face the societal shaming and his family too. So creating awareness among society about the rights of an arrested person and the judicial stuff which is happening into this like happening in judiciary. So we need to create awareness among them also, because the arrested persons after you get...
Your question.
Sir, what would you like to suggest the society about this thing, sir?
No, I've already done that during the course of my lecture. So
actually, this is our duty to create an awareness among the society, because as law students, we need to change this. So they can lead a dignified life through this.
How well you're informed is very important. Recently, I went to a law college, I gave a lecture. I asked them to name 5 of the current sitting Supreme Court judges, and not even 2 of them could name all of them. So, so how much of reading you do, analysis you do, will give you the right answers. But be at it. Don't stop. And there is no dull day for a law student, definitely not for a lawyer. And today, newspapers, the proportion of law news is fairly high. I think Mr. Ravi would agree with me. So there's so much for you to read and ingest.
So, good evening, sir. I just have a basic doubt. What is the difference between not guilty and innocent? When would you call someone not guilty, or when would you call someone? Or is there a difference at all?
Yeah. See, the point is, first, again, like I told you about films, watch this Kurosawa film called Rashomon. Alright. See, Justice Albie Sachs told us that what we do in courts is find microscopic truths. We don't find dialogic truths, we don't find experiential truths, we don't find logical truths, we find microscopic truths. By microscopic truths, what do you mean? For this situation, I'll only have close-ended questions, yes or no, right? I'll use the yardstick of admissible, inadmissible, relevant, irrelevant. So we have got rules of evidence which traps the facts in a certain dimension, and we address that. Whereas if there is a dialogue between an accused and alleged accused and a victim, more truths might emerge. So at the end of this whole exercise, which is about truth seeking, we can't be 100% sure that we've arrived at the truth. Rashomon tells us that you looking at me from there and she looking at me from here are seeing 2 different things. The same event can be described differently by different persons. So what we do in court is not a complete foolproof exercise at truth seeking at all, and it's subject to different interpretations, different points of view. As judges, we then actually become philosophical in learning to accept this reality too, that what we say in court is not the final word at all. In fact, they go beyond. You have a review petition, you have a curative petition, all of that. So innocence in that sense in the court is the failure of the prosecution to prove its case, right? So factual innocence will be going to be very hard to establish. So how do I show that I was not there, correct? For instance, there's only so much I can do to prove it. If I haven't thought of today I should preserve, this air boarding pass that brought me from Delhi to Madras, I have no think of preserving it, right? 5 years down the line I'm asked to show whether I was in Madras or was in Delhi. I don't plan for that, right? So I'm saying the innocence that we talk about is the failure of the prosecution to prove its case, and not that we found who the perpetrators is. So it is a different concept from the factual innocence is different from the no guilt result that we arrive at in court. I don't know if I've answered you. Right.
Thank you, Lordship, for enlightening. And now I request Akhilesh to thank the gathering, please.
On behalf of Rakesh Law Foundation, I would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to Honorable Justice S. Muralidhar and Honorable Justice G.M. Akbar Ali for accepting our invitation and for being here with us today. Honorable Justice S. Muralidhar, your original thinking on law and the way you had delivered the lecture was extraordinary and have truly inspired us. I am sure you had given a different perspective to all of us. Honorable Justice G.M. Akbar Ali, we may not thank you since we are a family, but thank you for your constant support and care. It means a lot to us. Finally, I would like to thank all of you present here, particularly